Well, it's a beautiful Tuesday morning, and welcome you to today's edition of the morning show right here on LN 24/7. That always say, where we help you kickstart your day on a very, very high note. I am Precious Obaze.
And I am Munzube Chukwanodo. It's good to be here. Lovely cold Tuesday morning. Brings that Christmas feeling.
I mean, Hamatan is here and it's bitingly cold. I mean, on my way to work this morning, I saw a lot of people. People at the bus stop, a lot of vehicular movement, and this very cold nip in the air. And I said to myself, God bless Nigerians.
God bless Nigeria.
Because every day you see people on the streets just hustling, going about their daily activities. Like in local parlance, man must work. So you find people not being idle at all, in spite of all that they are going through. They're still pushing forward and still pushing through. And then the only thought that just came to my mind was, God bless Nigerians. Those are going, going to work. Those are going to their businesses. Those are going to school. It's just a whole lot, right? But this morning, I truly want to celebrate the resilient spirit of Nigerians, wherever they are, whatever it is that they are doing. Nigerians are resilient, and that's one thing to be grateful for. I mean, their countries have been through a lot, right? And not as much as Nigeria even, but we've seen what has happened. But God is still keeping us together as one, and we are just still pushing. We keep pushing through. So it's enough to celebrate.
Yes, Nigerians are strong-willed, even emotionally strong, even physically strong, like even in the hardest of times, you still see Nigerians smiling on social media, and they just find a way to make make the best moments out of whatever situation that they find themselves in. God bless Nigeria.
Indeed, and let's also let you know that we are not going to be doing this alone. Of course, our Abuja studios are joining in now. Ayobami is looking very dapper, and he jumps in on our conversations this morning. Morning, Ayobami. It's good to see you.
Good morning.
Indeed.
Good morning from the nation's capital. Good morning, my name is Ayobami Adeyemo. And like you rightly said, God bless Nigeria. I just wonder how we just survive, how we go through all of the things we go through every day. Probably it's in our DNA, it's a part of our system. We're just, a special being, a unique person, a unique people, probably the chosen generation and the royal priesthood, like the scripture said. So it is all about, that beautiful spirit, that beautiful mind of Nigerians out of all the ups and ups. Probably I mustn't say the downs, we always come out strong. And that's the beauty of this great nation, Nigeria. You just keep hearing different stories. And after the old stories, you just want to ask yourself, what are we thinking? Who are these guys? And we move over it, and we're getting better every day. So it's beautiful. And of course, we'll always get better. God bless Nigeria.
Indeed, God bless Nigeria. And truly, we can only get better. Now, having said that, we want to give you a sneak peek into what today's programming is all about. And of course, at this time, we will just take a look into our top stories and bring you into this beautiful buffet that we have prepared for you. Now, in the news, Nigeria's unemployment rate drops to 4.3% in second quarter of 2024. This is according to NLFS. Now, on the front burner this morning, education in Nigeria, much ado about governing council, the Unizik saga, a case in point. Well, also in the news, the Nigerian student enrollment in the United States higher institutions rises. This is an official statement being put out. And then, of course, we are going to also be telling you that French farmers are protesting against low food prices, subsidies for farmers' diesel and fuel. All of these and so much more we have lined up for you this beautiful Tuesday morning. So don't touch that dial, don't take a step, don't move away. We'll be right back after the break. Join us again. Well, it's great to have you back. We welcome you back with some developing stories, and we'll just get right into it. Now, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, and the Nigerian Governors Forum say they would sign a memorandum of understanding to strengthen their collaboration against climate change. Now, a statement by NIMET on Monday said the collaboration is in the interest of Nigeria's continued socio-economic development. Speaking at a meeting at NGF's office in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, over the weekend, the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of NIMET, Professor Charles Anosike, said that a formal relationship between the NGF and NIMET is in the best interest of the country as it will benefit the people. Professor Anosike said that NIMET and NGF believe strongly that something should be done to mitigate the impact of climate change and would sign an MOU to guide their relationship. Meanwhile, Director General of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Abdulateef Oti Shitu, said that climate change is impacting economic well-being nationally and globally. A claim that is becoming regular in the news, Shitu said. NIMET is a critical federal government agency, hence the NGF has agreed to sign a memorandum of understanding with NIMET so that we can support and partner with them to implement all the climate change initiatives that the agency has in the interest of the Nigerian people. And so there we have it, climate change being held as the culprit for whatever ails the world. Meanwhile, a lot of times people forget that by their action and non-action, there is always a side effect, right? There's always an end, a consequence really to whatever action, whatever decision or indecision, people governments really get involved in, and then, of course, citizens get involved in. We talk about socioeconomic challenges all the time. Let's even begin with flooding, impact of flooding. There are a lot of factors that are responsible for that. We know that over time, climate change has also been blamed for that. But when you look at the environment, you look at what people are doing in their immediate environment, most importantly in waste disposal management, when you look at the way that has been handled by citizens, by government also, that calls, issues into question. Again, when you look at people building, erecting buildings on waterways, natural water power, people, erect buildings, their government officials give people permission to erect buildings on canals, on natural water power, and then when the water comes, it can't flow through. What do we say to that? So a lot of times when we talk climate change, I'm always I'm always a bit skeptical about it because more often than not, when we rethink our actions, to a very large extent, it will mitigate against some of those challenges that we see. But everything that ails the world, climate change has to be blamed for it. Ayobami, what do you think?
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. Human factor is one of those particular things we need to consider when looking at the topic of climate change. You've mentioned it, a lot of reasons why we need to just sit back and ask ourselves these questions. As we develop, as we expand as a nation, do we have a proper plan? A proper, monitoring plan or strategies of erecting buildings, of putting, drainages, of channeling waters, to be useful to and give ourselves answers. Then it's not about the climate change. The climate is there. Probably is not even changing. Probably the people are the ones, changing the climate itself. So God is always God, and of course, He's blessed us with every resources that we need. But how to charge resources are very critical and important. You talked about flood. Flooding is one of those things. We recall what happened in Borno State, Maiduguri. I think the last of what we heard was some people I mean, those donors did not bring in money. We're talking about money now, but let's look at the effect of, you know, the flooding itself. It's actually something we can actually avoid completely. There's been warnings, there's been plans, there's been red alerts long before that particular incident. But what did we do? We had to wait till to the last point, and after that, we started counting losses and, you know, costs. So for me, this particular move is a welcome idea and a welcome, you know, way to probably, you know, go towards a right direction. And what am I talking about, you know, the right direction? I feel that the governors are also those part of, you know, those that will strategize and deal with lots of critical issues that, you know, these disasters do affect. For example, agriculture. We have agriculture when there's flooding. Definitely, there's no proper agriculture. Farmers will be affected. You know, and, of course, health at the same time. We've seen over and over when NCDC had to partner with, you know, NIMET to, you know, tackle health issues. We've seen Minister of Agriculture, the Ministry of Agriculture also partnering, you know, with the agency. So it's high time that the state government or the subnationals also look deep into how to partner with them and how to, you know, really deal with the proper issues. Climate change, world leaders will come to, you know, go around, talk about this in their summit. But hey, are we really looking at the human factor that you mentioned? And I'm happy that you mentioned it. When we look at those human factors, how we affect ourselves, probably we'll have less
Indeed. I mean, aptly said, right? It's a good development, you know, that the governors are getting into a partnership with NIMET. I mean, every year, way ahead of time, NIMET would put out advisory to the governors and tell them, oh, we're going to have high flooding this year. So people need to be moved from, you know, lowlands to highlands and all that. It's beyond all of that. What level of preparation are put in place to ensure that the challenges that are going to come as a result of some of these issues, you know, some of these warnings and advisories, you know, that NIMET puts out? What level of preparedness do we have in place? Can we say that effectively we are ready when these things happen, we can mitigate? So really, when you look at the fact that NIMET is actually going into agreement with the governors at this time, I think it's high time, you know, a direct communication is had so that people cannot pretend to say we didn't know what was going to happen or we didn't get notice on time. So I think this, you know, memorandum of understanding signing is going to be very, very laudable. It's going to make a lot of sense at this time.
Yes, of course, and the memorandum of understanding signed by the Governors Forum and NIMET is very good, very good. You know, because I believe in that it will help them to come together and to, you know, come up with solutions before or pre and post whatever happens, you know, the flooding and, you know, whatever is
even drought sometimes. When you
think about it, climate change. What actually makes the climate to change? And the climate doesn't change itself. As you said, human factors. There are human factors that contribute to this. Now, think about it. If you think about it globally now, natural disasters, what causes natural disasters? I believe in that it is as a result of the climate change and all of that. And then good, natural disasters have been in existence for as long as we can remember. So why is climate change now at the front burner of a lot of countries? And we are seeing, you know, and this country, you know, UAE talking about, you know, climate change and all of that, and they are saying and that other countries should, like I think also the US saying and that like other countries and should manage, you know, and their emission and all of this. Yes, fuel or products from fuel, of course, can cause, you know, air pollution, because that actually is what makes the so-called climate change even possible. Yes, I am speaking because I am not in support, because climate does not change by itself. These are human factors.
Naturally.
Once these human factors are being checkmated pre and post the disaster, I believe this issue of climate change will be put to rest once and for all.
Indeed, and of course, the COP29 that just concluded concluded on a very dismal note for some countries, because especially underdeveloped countries, because they thought that the monies that developed countries proposed, about almost 300, I think, trillion dollars, they didn't think it was enough. And of course, this would have been enough compared to so many years ago when you know, that agreement was initially signed. However, it just lets you know that people will do as people would do. I mean, recently some countries have been criticized about not cutting emissions, you know, having promised not to cut emissions, rather, they haven't really gotten into. So all kinds of issues, and then it brings to the fore the question, is it really true? Right? Are people really sincere about this discourse that they put in front of the world? Climate change, everything is climate change. When you are at the forefront of shouting climate change and you don't think to change your actions, the actions that have seemingly contributed to the negative impact of the so-called climate change, then you should put your money where your mouth is. You should be able to very quickly change your actions. If you're not ready to change, then it begs the question, why even talk about it at all? But anyway, that's not the discussion for today. We are moving on in developing stories segment. Nigeria's unemployment rate dropped to 4.3% in the second quarter of 2024. The National Bureau of Statistics has been quoted as saying. The Bureau said this in its Nigeria Labour Force Survey (NLFS) report for second quarter 2024, released on Monday. The unemployment rate dropped to 4.3% in the second quarter from 5.3% in first quarter of 2024. A breakdown of the report showed that the labor force participation rate among the working age population increased to 79.5% in second quarter 2024 from 77.3% in first quarter 2024. Now, the report said the unemployment to population ratio was 6.1% in second quarter. Now, this is according to the Bureau. This, according to the Bureau, is an increase of 2.9% points compared to 73.2 in first quarter. Year-on-year comparison shows a slight decrease from second quarter 2023 at 77.1%. Now, the combined unemployment rate and time-related unemployment as a share of the labor force population decreased to 13% in second quarter from 15.3% in first quarter 2023, it said. And then, of course, we can just go on and on and on and on and keep reading out the figures. But the bottom line here is that Nigeria's unemployment rate is dropping, or rather has dropped, to 4.3% in second quarter of 2024. And really, is that a good thing or a bad thing, really? Ayobami, what do you think?
Well, you know, it's just funny that, you know, we read all these things and we want to ask, when you go around the street, you want to ask the impact. Is it really reflecting what, you know, MBS is actually pushing out? No questions about it. There are a lot of statistics out there, but, you know, the reality is right in front of us. I recall way back, I think probably early this year, where, you know, I think one of the pictures our producers also put there as immigration, you know, employment exercise, where you see warnings, you know, from the porter that please don't pay any agent, avoid fake, you know, employment letters. That's to show how deep, you know, unemployment is. In fact, some people will just even go around and tell you, I want to help you, pay me some certain amount of money, and you see what will happen. Eventually, you won't get the employment, you will not be employed. At the same time, you'll be duped. So it is all about, you know, the reality on ground. And the fact is, you know, many Nigerians have moved away from relying on the government to get, you know, employment. They have actually moved towards being an employer, or probably, you know, being an entrepreneur. So eventually, probably that's also why the, you know, the rate has been able to drop. You also recall that, you know, during the last quarter of 2020, that is during the COVID-19, we had the highest of it all at 6% or thereabout. And I think it was during 2013 or thereabout that we had the lowest of 3.07%. So this is more the average when compared to both, the lowest and the highest of all time. But hey, for some Nigerians, it's no more about employment. Many Nigerians are not even looking for job again. What they are looking for is to survive. You said it while we started. You see people, you see hustlers, the way they call themselves on the streets. People trying as much as possible, to look for how to feed every day. So when you look at those things, you want to just ask yourself that, is it reflecting what, National Bureau of Statistics is saying, or many people have just not, they're not bothered about what the government or the nation is giving them. They're trying as much as possible to employ themselves.
Yeah, I mean, you said it all, Ayobami. I mean, if you're putting out statistics and then it's way different from the reality on ground, then people begin to question, where do you get your figures from? I mean, are you living in a bubble? Exactly, are you living in a bubble? I mean, Uzubechuku, we had a conversation.
Yes.
We had a conversation before we came live and we're talking about, and you very succinctly, he was really concerned, and he said, I mean, why are you even talking about employment in respect to people who have secondary school certificates? I said, well, you would talk about it because at a point, there are some people who may not further necessarily, maybe for whatever reason, they may not further their education, but would just say, okay, you know what, I have the certificate now, I feel I can work with this. I mean, this is the end of my journey. For some people, they want further, but they can't. But this is the reality, right? This is the certification that they have at hand right now. And for some, it's artisanal jobs that they do. Some would just get into entrepreneurship. Some would just, just find one kind of menial job or the other as a certificate would allow them, to get. But Uzubechuku had serious issues because, of course, at that point,
I had a problem with it. I had a problem. I mean, the National Bureau of Statistics, if you were listening, we are not saying your stats are wrong. I mean, I am 100% sure you know how to do your jobs right. But let's talk about documentation when it comes to statistics, yes? And because to get proper statistics, there has to be proper documentation, proper documentation of research. Now, how did you do your research to get this figure that our unemployment rate in the country has dropped? How did you do your study? Are there documentations of, and the number of, the number of people who work in offices, and the number of people who do businesses, and the number of people who even do menial jobs? These are all research and these are all stats. Now, it's just to ask how they get it. And now, coming up with these stats now, that begs the question, reality. I'm a very realistic person, reality. Because Nigerians are, battling with hunger. Nigerians are battling with high cost of a lot of things, high cost of fuel, high cost of transport. You have companies, especially pharmaceutical companies, leaving Nigeria as a result of unfavorable, working.
Business environment.
Yes, unfavorable business environment. These are problems. Now, take for example, when those companies leave, do they create another company for their workers to go continue in their jobs? They lay them off. That gives unemployment to a certain number of people. You talk about businesses who are really, really struggling with high electricity tariff, who complain and that the cost of running their organization is even too much, so they have to lay off some staffs to be able to meet up and pay salaries at when due. Putting all of this, into consideration, did our unemployment rate actually drop? Did it?
Yeah, well, according to them, it did drop.
Well, according to the statistics agency,
don't forget that when companies fold up, right, definitely there will be casualties.
Of course.
The staff there would be casualties. And so sometimes for some people, they just get into menial jobs. For some others, they keep struggling, right? For some others, they try to maybe start a small business.
Was there a documentation for those people who left?
Sorry?
I said, was there a documentation and to get the number of people who finally found a way for themselves, or are they just still on the streets going, you know, like about them with their certificate from companies to companies, still looking for a job?
You tell us. Because obviously you did your research, so tell us.
That is a question for the National Bureau of
Anyway,
Statistics.
at this point, our phone lines are open for you to get into this conversation. And what we're talking about is unemployment rate has dropped. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, even though we've said it repeatedly, the reality on ground doesn't really buttress that point. And again, so many factors. People losing jobs, how are the jobs being replaced? People's businesses are struggling. They're unable to even employ. You know, so these are some of the issues. Of course, some businesses are picking up while some others are struggling. You know, as the country's economy continues to struggle, some other people continue to struggle. And so we, as St. NBC, has boldly told us that the unemployment rate is dropping. And then again, our NBC also told us, they said the employment rate for the informal sector, and when really, I do recall some years ago when the informal sector was, when our economy was rebased, the informal sector accounted for a huge percentage of our GDP. Now, so many years back, even though we've heard that the government wants to rebase the economy, but which in itself threw light on the informal sector and of course, the income, the revenue it generates, right? And so today, we see that government is getting behind that discourse and saying, oh, you know what, informal sector, the employment rate there is really high. But Ms. Chukwu asks a very salient question. How do you get the data for that sector? How do you even know how the sector is functioning? I mean, how do you have the records? Ayababi, you want to get into that?
That's the question. Yeah, that's, you know, like we rightly said, that's the question that most Nigerians will want to ask. And you just want to wonder how realistic we are. You know, I think Mr. Olawale Edun is doing a great job. Why did I mention his name? That is the Minister of, you know, Economy. Yes, so coordinating economy. And, you know, he's doing a great job at this point in time, trying as much as possible to justify why the country needs to borrow more. You know, I was just going through stories yesterday and Senate trying to defend, you know, reasons why the government needs to borrow more, alongside, you know, military giving records saying that, yeah, they've hit the target, so they are performing well. So we must, you know, continue to borrow more so that we can elevate people out of poverty. And when you look at all these stats, you know, when you look at all these records, when you add 1 + 1 together, it's also what they will, you know, bring on board to justify the reasons why, you know, the government is doing well, why, you know, the economy is picking up. You recall that, you know, Mr. President was at Brazil. You know, one of the things he mentioned is that, yes, all our reforms are now yielding fruit. They are bringing results. So these are part of, you know, the packages all together, combined together to justify reasons why Nigeria is moving on the right side, on the good side. But, you know, like we've said, and the question is, where are these records? Where are these data? How do we get this data? How do we get the statistics? And, you know, how do we combine them together to justify these? In Ede, where I'm from, I'm very sure that most of my causes are in fun there, being, you know, trying as much as possible to get, you know, their hands and to do some beautiful and meaningful on some other beautiful things, and you know, leaving the government alone, not relying on the government, but just to survive, just to get, you know, their daily bread. And when you go to Lagos where you're seated, around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, some people are not sleeping. Some people are still trying as much as possible to look for what to eat. And by 4 o'clock, they are, of course, on their way to work. And what exactly is their take-home pay? The minimum wage, what exactly are they getting? At the end of the day, you want to ask yourself some questions. Those are employed, are they really fully employed, meaningfully employed? Do they even have a take home to take them home? And those that are employed, do we even have the statistics of those who do not rely on the government to get jobs done? You know, the entrepreneurs, do we even have this to get those things done? So it is really, I mean, you get all those records, like I said, those paper, you know, those records together, so that we can justify why we need to borrow more.
Indeed.
I hope we can.
Oh yes, I mean, there has to be a justification for borrowing. We cannot be creative, right? We don't have that. We don't have that drive or the need to be creative. We must borrow so that the economy can function effectively. Meanwhile, we service our debt with a huge percentage of our GDP, right? And so we come out, you know, we tell our people, oh, you know what, our foreign reserves are, you know, they're rising and all of that. When you keep borrowing, which in itself is not a bad thing, but when you keep borrowing and that money you're borrowing is not generating income for you, it becomes a liability. But when you borrow and you are able to generate some kind of return on that borrowing, it makes sense that you're borrowing. I mean, how can a human being borrow money? For instance, as an individual, I go to the bank and I say, I want to take a loan. What do you want to take the loan for? I want to pay my house rent, or I want to feed with the money, forgetting that I'll have to pay back that money, and with interest too. So most times when I think about it, it just makes nonsense, you know, of the need to go borrowing as a person. It doesn't make sense to me because it's not, like, you know, in local parlance, like we say, it's not dash, right? It's a money that you have borrowed and you must pay back. So if you are not earning on that money, right? If you are not earning on that money, how do you hope to pay back that money? It's the same question to the government. When you say you're borrowing money, right, to implement your budget, in the implementation of your budget, is there any way in that plan to generate money in any way? Is there any way in that plan where your economy, your people will not be impoverished? Because now we're taxing our people, while, you know, all kinds of taxes people are being made to pay. Now, when you have that kettle of fish on the one hand, and your people are complaining, oh, the economy is not good, inflation is not at an all-time high, a high cost of living and all that. People are not buying again because their buying powers have been reduced. That's another kettle of fish that you are going to have to marry these two kettles at the end of the day to find out if you're making money or not. When you now add up all of this situation, we are looking at bad roads. You're looking at so many things that are mitigating against people, even the informal sector functioning effectively. Yes. What are we saying? So like I said, we will continue to justify why we must borrow. And you know, I have always said, Nigerians, we don't hold ourselves accountable. If we hold ourselves accountable and we allow public officers understand that by the time you're done with this job, right, you're going to come back and give account. If you cannot account for the monies that you borrowed, if you cannot account for the monies, you know, that you got as your FAC allocation, if you cannot account for your security, if you cannot account for the different monies that the federal government gives to you, you as a state government, if you cannot account for it, then you will have to cough out the money somehow. Until we begin to hold, you know, public officers accountable, I dare say we will continue to see this impunity. And so the federal government will be, on the one hand, struggling to generate money, struggling to build the economy, and then the subnationals will just be there doing as the subnationals will naturally do. It's a whole lot, but today is not economy day. I'm sure business people will take all of that discussion away. But you know, it's just so worrisome to see that there's a lot of leakages in our system. There's a lot of avenues where people or monies can just disappear without those leakages, you know, being plugged and without people being held responsible. And so it becomes something like a vicious circle. But like I said, business people will deal. Now, moving on, today is Education Tuesday. I want to deal education. I don't want to talk business. Now, in our next story, we are being told that the number of Nigerian students enrolled in higher institutions in the United States has increased by 13.5% in the 2023-2024 academic year compared to the previous 2021-2022 academic session. Now, according to the figure released by the United States Diplomatic Mission to Nigeria in its Open Door report on international education exchange, 20,029 Nigerian students enrolled in the just concluded academic year 2023-2024, up from 14,438 last year. And the number of Nigerian students enrolling into U.S. higher institutions increases every year for more than a decade now. Now, the only decline recorded between the 2019 and 2020 and 2020 and 2021 academic years was attributed to the COVID-19 to vaccination protocols imposed by some of the institutions. Nigeria has now moved 3 places from 10th to 7th in a list of countries with the highest number of international students in the United States. Now, this year, Nigeria has more international students in the U.S. than Mexico, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia. Each of the countries had more students in the U.S. than Nigeria did last year. And so we continue to see a question of should I call it brain drain now, or should I call it exodus of some of Nigeria's brightest out of the country? And so we continue to ask our education managers, our education handlers, what are you doing with this all-important sector? For quite a while now, we hadn't heard, I mean, those figures had not really been put in our face, especially people who are going to Canada. When we heard that Canada was capping, okay, for some quarters there was a sigh of relief. Okay, so if we get our people to stay back, can we actually force, government and government managers to do something about our sector? And U.S. comes out to say, oh well, 9 more Nigerians are traveling.
Well, I just hope this is not being seen as an achievement, actually. I just really hope this particular report is not being seen as an achievement. And because now, think about it. You were saying, and Nigeria has, the highest number of foreign students in the U.S. Now, that makes us wonder, what is going on in our education sector? Are we just like appointing new ministers with new policies, or are we seeing those policies being implemented to help the education system retain its brightest students? Because when young talents are being discovered, and the best thing to do with this young talent is to harness their potentials and use it to generate income for the country. Now, if these bright students are leaving the country as a result of several things, infrastructural problems, underfunding, and even the ASU strike, if they are leaving because they want...
Which we haven't heard anything of, thank God, for quite a while.
Thank God, yes. For quite a while, we haven't heard, anything about ASU strike. Thank God. But that still makes them, I mean, that makes me wonder, is our education system developing after 64 years of our independence, or are we just trying to find our feet at 64? By the way, 64 in human age should be a grandfather. 64 at human age should be a grandfather. Is Nigeria still trying to put together its education system with several reforms and policies, or are we at the point where we are thinking of implementing and sustaining those policies and reforms to the letter to help retain our bright students?
At the end of the day, it just means that our education handlers would need to become more creative. They need to become more creative with the sector to ensure that we don't destroy our sector by our education sector and our country at large. Because whether you like it or not, when they say education is the backbone or is the bedrock of development for any country, that's not gainsaying. It's not a cliche. It is what it is. I mean, if a country would develop, if a country would move forward, the people have to be educated. And so that's one very important sector, I would to God, that the government will put premium on. I mean, the other day we had the TRCN, for instance, calling for more funding, that government must fund. We did hear a rumor a while ago that the former registrar walked away because government wasn't ready to fund, government education agencies. Now, all of this kind of narratives, whether true or false, is not happening at all. When you look at countries like China, when you look at different countries, they put so much premium on the education sector. And then the question is, what are we doing? We will continue to just move around in circles if we're not deliberate and intentional about building, strengthening, and sustaining our education sector. Well, we've come to the end of Developing Stories at this time. We will go for a very quick break. When we return, it will just be time for our front burner discussion. Join us again.
New class, new faculties, new curriculum, and new study schedules. This is what a new academic year is all about. At the start of every academic year, there are peculiar challenges faced by universities that hinder the smooth run of that academic session. For students, there are non academic and academic obstacles that they must overcome while transitioning from one academic year to another.
First off, I was homesick because that was literally the first time I was leaving my home to a very far place, and it was quite depressing. Secondly, I was adapting to the environment, the water systems and others.
Firstly, was homesick. I was really homesick because I was moving into a new environment and new persons, and I wasn't really used to them yet. And then secondly was time management, especially after each strike. Like coming to school and then you have 1 month to read, attend classes, do your assignment, and also prepare for your exams. It wasn't really conducive enough.
It was just trying to navigate the whole school. For me, basically, I'm more of a practical person. I feel more with practicals, but we don't really have practicals, excursions to see things that are really happening, in my own field of study. So that's basically the thing.
One of the challenges I face as a Nigerian student is time management. We all know managing our time is very important, and unlike secondary school, university often pack 2 years of content into 1 year, and most students take a full 15 credit semesters, while others try to cram 18 or more credits, and it seems impossible to stay at the top. Not to talk about the ridiculous university expenses, from school fees to buying of textbooks to surviving as a student. The constant inflation in the Nigerian economy has made it almost impossible for us to survive. Let's not talk about the ASU strike that is gradually becoming an annual event that every student who attends the state or federal university in Nigeria has to forcefully participate.
Ellen 24/7 is first of all a news station.
Well, we continue with updates from the just concluded governorship
in the southeast has raised questions if INEC will be able to conduct elections.
With a core team of over 40 correspondents spread across Nigeria.
Nigeria is set to take its place.
And affiliates in Africa, Europe, America, and Asia. We give you news as it breaks from the perspective you can trust.
Ellen 24/7 News, where the story goes, we go.
Japa, japa, japa. Yes, that is a popular phrase used amongst Nigerians and our Nigerian students, especially when they want to leave the country and go abroad to study.
So we are out here on the streets of Lagos talking to Nigerians about the impact and their personal opinion that this impact of the Japa syndrome has on our educational system.
I think the reason why the Japa syndrome has really affected the educational system negatively is because after graduation and after leaving school, after going to school 4 years, 5 years in Nigeria, you end up not having a very good job. You start searching and moving from one place to another, getting something to at least earn a living, but it's really, really impossible. But when these people, these intellectuals leave the country, they get to meet so many opportunities. You don't even have to do too much, but the fact that they are intellectuals and they get something over there, they tend to wait and then ask other people to come join them.
As regards Japa syndrome, there are positive dimensions to it and at the same time negative dimensions to it. Because we have seen cases whereby people have migrated outside the country and they've come back to help our economy. In fact, if you look at it today, most of our top professors in the universities, they are all trained outside the country. And they are bringing that curriculum they were used to train abroad, trying to implement it in our Nigerian situation here. So that is a positive dimension. What they have seen over there, they are bringing it back to this side and trying to help our system. The other side is our best brains are leaving the country. And you cannot force them for leaving because there's no encouragement on the side of government. So that is the annoying thing. Our best brains, you will see someone who has made first class, whether in engineering, in medicine, only for you to hear that this person has left the country. And this person is doing very well outside there. So I feel there should be a way for us to be able to keep our best brains so that we don't lose them to this Western world. Because some of the things you see, the inventions, the creations you are seeing in this Western world, they are the ideas from our Nigerian youth. So there must be a way for us to keep our best brains so that they can help us in terms of our economy and other aspects of our national life.
The whole Japa syndrome has made Nigerian educational system very underrated. Personally, I feel like there are some schools in Nigeria that offer more than what schools in abroad have to offer. I mean, yeah. Even though for the fact that the economy in Nigeria is way back, it's now going very down. I would have loved to do my master's here because the educational system is better. But then the Japa syndrome, I mean, everybody wants to go out, including me. I want to Japa because Nigeria is not funny. So the whole Japa syndrome has made the educational system more underrated than it usually is. And yeah, Nigerian schools are now slacking off more and more because, I mean, everybody wants to go outside. So I feel like schools are not putting more effort into what they offer. They're not putting more effort into what they give because what's the need? People are going outside. People are leaving their home country to study overseas.
So regarding the Japa syndrome, I will 100% support it because as I'm looking at this economic situation and everything, there are much graduates in the society. They don't have work. So people are just finding for greener pasture to improve their life. So if you have the opportunity to Japa, I would support you 100%. Go and Japa. For some time, for when they get to the other country, maybe when they live abroad, they might suffer for a little time. But with time, there is hope that things will work out for them. Unlike we are in Nigeria, we don't even know our next something, our future, because everything is just everything seems hopeless. So to me, the Japa syndrome, I 100% support it. Yes, in the educational sector, it has impacted it negatively to me. Because people are they don't want to study in Nigeria, they want to study abroad. They believe that education abroad is more okay than here in Nigeria. And to me, if I'm to choose, educational sector in Nigeria, they are doing their best. But it's due to the economic situation, so people they don't regard this Nigerian education. They believe that if I go outside the country, I would learn more. They have these modern amenities to lecture students. So if the government can work on the educational sector very well, they should structure everything. It's not this one that they are doing that they would
student, you just see strike, has to strike, everything. It does not make sense.
And for me, I don't think the jackpot thing has really affected our educational system. Not in that way that you'd say affect. I would say the jackpot thing is as a result of the poor educational system. And it's not as if that's not even where the problem lies. The problem lies in the aftermath of your education. Because I can bet you that there are masters, PhD holders walking up and down, earning 70,000 naira. You understand? So that's where the problem comes in. You stress yourself with your this sense of education that you want to train yourself to the highest form of your career, and you come out to the public, you come out to the world to impact those knowledge and realize that there's nobody there to hire you. For you to get hired, you have to know one or two persons, one grandpapa where they one corner where you don't understand. So those are the things that really affect those things. And when you have the opportunity to move out, people carry those skills out there and they realize that those skills that they carry out there becomes beneficial for them. Why wouldn't you want to jackpot? So the problem with our own system, what's making it bad for the medical students now, where you see almost every nurse, every doctor wants to find a way to run out of the country. That means we don't have any skilled hand here in Nigeria. Somebody wants to treat malaria now in the next 10 years, we'll have to run and fly out because they want to treat malaria. Because all our doctors and professional hands are leaving. So that's just it. I just feel like, for me, Nigeria has a lot of problems. You understand? We need somebody that would, we need to caution ourselves first to make our leaders accountable. That's the first one. When we make our leaders accountable, even from our own local level, they will move upward. Because those people that you are voting to go to the president level and the senate level, they all start from the local level, and that's where our problem comes from.
The Jackpot syndrome has not really had good impacts on Nigerian educational system because we are losing our able ends, we are losing our intellectuals, we are losing the youths who are supposed to develop this country, we are losing them to other countries. Now, when our youths now go to other countries and they acquire this knowledge, they don't want to come back to Nigeria. So who would actually want to come back? So we really might not know the effects now until maybe 5-10 years when we need good ends in Nigeria. Talk about education, in business, medicine. That's when we know the impacts now. We really don't know the impacts now. We will not feel it now. Is when we go to our hospitals in 5 years' time and there is no actually doctor to treat people. There are no nurses because nobody wants to stay. So the impact of the Jackpot syndrome has actually had a terrible consequence on Nigeria education and economy at large.
To me, doesn't have any positive impact on Nigeria, probably a negative impact. Because one, most of our resources have been taken over there. Like the money some of the parents sent to pay for the students' school fees. Even with the high rate of exchange rate now, most parents are complaining. Even in education, and I've seen an example whereby one of a friend went to go and study at abroad. He studied medicine, but when he came back to Nigeria, what he studied, he was unable to defend it. Though in Nigeria, we all know education system is somehow. Don't let me say poor, bad, or good, but at least for you to survive in Nigeria, you can survive in anywhere. That's my only.
So there you have it. Nigerians have given their personal opinion on what the impact of the Jackpot syndrome has had on our educational system. Unzube Chukwanodo, LN247.
LN 24/7 is first of all a news station.
Well, we continue with updates from the just concluded governorship
in the southeast has raised questions if INEC will be able to conduct elections.
With a core team of over 40 correspondents spread across Nigeria.
Nigeria is set to take its place.
And affiliates in Africa, Europe, America, and Asia. We give you news as it breaks from the perspective you can trust.
LN 24/7 News, where the story goes, we go.
Ellen 24/7 lights up your day with unbeatable shows that guarantees absolute access to stories that revolves around politics, entertainment, and sports. Breaking news, plus detailed reports and analysis. At Ellen 24/7, where the story goes, we go.
What makes the political system what it is today? What are the recurring issues? Order. The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension. The instability of the system. Join Ellen 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
Apologize for saying that I was corrupt. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch politics now on Ellen 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on Ellen 24/7. At Ellen 24/7 Sports, football just got better. For the fans. For loyalty. For the tackles.
Near supernatural goal from Lionel Messi.
For the celebrations. For the goals. For the love of the game.
Ellen 24/7 is first of all a news station.
Well, we continue with updates from the just concluded governorship
in the southeast has raised questions if INEC will be able to conduct elections.
With a core team of over 40 correspondents spread across Nigeria.
Nigeria is set to take its place.
And affiliates in Africa, Europe, America, and Asia. We give you news as it breaks from the perspective you can trust.
Ellen 24/7 News, where the story goes, we go.
Well, it's great to have you back. Now, at this point, we will be bringing you our Fern Burner conversation. And what is it about? We're looking at a recent saga that unfolded over the past week as it pertains to education. We're looking at much ado about governing council with the University of the UNIZIK saga in focus. Now, the federal government announced the removal of Engineer Oheku Mohammed Salami, the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the Governing Council of the Federal University of Health Sciences, Otukpo, Benue State, due to actions unbecoming of his office and violations of established procedures. The decision follows a series of unprofessional actions by Engineer Salami, including the suspension of the Vice-Chancellor without following the prescribed procedures. Despite intervention by the Federal Ministry of Education and from a request to rescind the unlawful suspension, Engineer Salami refused to comply, resorting to abusive and threatening behavior towards the ministry's directors, including the permanent secretary. Now, in line with this decision, the minister has requested the appointment of a new Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the Governing Council for the Federal University of Health Sciences, Otukpo, to restore proper governance and ensure the university operates in accordance with the principles of law, due process and accountability. In another development, the Honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, announced the reassigning of the Pro-Chancellors and Chairmen of the Governing Councils of the Federal Universities of Oye-Ekiti and Lokoja to enhance national cohesion and improve the governance of these institutions. This change comes after it was noted that the current Pro-Chancellor of the Federal University, Oye-Ekiti, Engineer Kayode Ujo, is an indigene of Ekiti State. Now, as part of the ministry's commitment to promoting national integration and ensuring impartial oversight, it is standard practice for pro-chancellors to be appointed from outside the state of the university. This ensures unbiased governance and supports the core values of diversity and national unity. The federal government also announced the dissolution of the Governing Council of Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka, Anambra State, following grave breaches of the laws governing the university and disregard for lawful directives from the Federal Ministry of Education. Now, the decision comes after it was found that the chairman of the Governing Council unilaterally appointed a vice-chancellor who did not meet the minimum eligibility criteria for the position. Now, this led to a breakdown of law and order within the university community, causing tension and disharmony. And following an approval by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the swapping involves Senator Victor Undoma Egba, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, being reassigned as Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the Governing Council of the Federal University. Now, so much drama went on over the weekend, from the past week, I think from on Thursday into the weekend, about university governing councils. This is after over almost a year, really, when the president dissolved governing councils of the different federal universities, and then, of course, ASU did push for for a reconstitution of the councils, and then the councils are in place, but the drama seems to be non-ending. And so this morning on the front burner, we will be looking at the governing council. The case in point will be that of UNIZIK. And of course, our talking points this morning, we're looking at the autonomy of university governing councils. We're looking at governing councils' procedures for appointing senior officials. And of course, we'll look at external interference or universities' governance. Now, our guest on the program this morning, we have Dr. Adijat Olubukola Olateju. She's a senior lecturer of economics, Lagos State University, LASU. And also, we do have our second guest this morning, just a minute. We have Dr. Ibrahim Rotimi Aliu. Of course, is the Associate Professor, Lagos State University, or JO, Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. This morning, we have both of them on set. Of course, they're joining us via video call. Both of them will be weighing in on all of the drama that has been, unfolding in the course of the past week. So good morning, and thank you very much for making our time to be with us here on the morning show, where we talk about all the issues as it pertains to the governing councils of several federal universities recently. Thank you for making our time to be here. Right, okay, we do have a guest. Dr. Adijat, I think I want to start from, with you. If you're ready, can we start with you? Good morning, Dr. Adijat. Right, I think Dr. Rotimi is, I think he's ready, so maybe we'll start with Dr. Rotimi. Dr. Rotimi, in the past few days, we've seen a sort of drama between the Federal Ministry of Education and, of course, the governing councils and some pro-chancellors in some universities, particularly in UNIZIK. We do know that what happened in Benue, that had to do with gross misconduct, as was called. But the case in question this morning is UNIZIK, the governing council in UNIZIK, and of course his sack. And then, of course, he threw up the question: who has really the power to hire and fire as it pertains to pro-chancellors and chairmen of governing councils?
Thank you, our guests, and thank you all other invited guests on this program.
Thank you.
Without wasting our time, let me just say a little thing about the issues surrounding the removal of Professor Obod at the university, at the UNIZIK, in Enugu.
Indeed.
Professor Obod has been accused of not properly appointed to the position of the Vice Chancellor by Ambassador Mbadiwe, the erstwhile, pro-chancellor, and the chairman of the council. It was alleged that Ambassador Mbadiwe unilaterally, without consulting other members of the council, appointed Professor Peter Obod, who has been accused of not being qualified on the basis of the fact that he was not a substantive, professor or a full professor at the point of appointment. This is a very, very weighty allegation, and even true. Yes, Professor Obod shouldn't have been appointed to that position. I know UNIZIK is a low institution, and we have the laid down rules, even with the condition of service. We have the procedures for appointing both acting and the substantive Vice Chancellor. It is not proper to appoint an associate professor where we have preeminent professors that are equally qualified to mount that particular position. And it was received with real shock that Peter Obod, Professor Peter Obod, as he's calling himself, should be appointed at that time. That decision to remove Mbadiwe, I think is in place. A parallel has been found in University of Abuja, where Professor Aisha Maikudi, who was just promoted about 2-3 years ago to full professor, is also been, contested. that she ordinarily will not be allowed to be the substantive vice chancellor of University of Abuja. That is just the way. We have petitions in the university that we need to.
Okay, it's looking like we've lost Professor Dr. Rotimi. We do hope that we can, get you back to join us. But at this time, let me bring in Dr. Adijat. I mean, we heard some of the things that Dr. Rotimi did say, how that indeed the sacking of the Pro-Chancellor was in line as due process wasn't followed in the appointment of the Vice-Chancellor in that school. Especially when we look at the fact that there were people who were more qualified for that position, but that wasn't considered, and someone who really wasn't qualified for that position at that time was appointed. What, in your opinion, what does this speak to when we think of the functions of a Pro-Chancellor and the chairman of the Governing Council of Federal Universities? What does this speak to as it pertains to their functions? Oh dear. We're having a bit of issue there. But while we look at resolving all of these issues, Ayobami, let me come to you. I mean, looking at the governing councils of federal universities and looking at how important their roles are when, as it pertains to the governance of the university community, how the schools will run effectively. It brings some worrisome thoughts to us when we see that it's just like the governors, the governors of different states, or what should I call it, the president's cabinet, where you find that the people who are supposed to be in sync running this state or running the different functions are not in sync, and then we find all kinds of issues that shouldn't be, shouldn't even arise at all. We find that we're grappling with these issues, and then we're looking at, the impact that this would have on, the education communities, and then of course education itself as it pertains to those universities. What are your thoughts, really?
Well, I believe that, many stakeholders also have a lot of input in this conversation. I would love to have, Dr. Adijat probably unmute her mic when she joins us, and of course, Dr. Rotimi. But, like Dr. Rotimi was saying, we've seen a series of, abnormality in the process, as the case may be. But, eventually, it also boils down to the body language of each governing body in different institutions. You also recall that, if there's no synergy, if there's no proper relationship from the Pro-Chancellor to the Vice-Chancellor to the Governing Council of an institution, definitely there will be a lacuna, there will be a chaos, there will be lots of issues which the school will not be able to address, from the senior staff union to, senior lecturers to the lecturers to the non-academic staff union. Every other body that are represented or work together in the institution will definitely experience such chaos as the case may be. So for the Federal University of Otokpo in Benue State, and of course a case study, UNIZIK is also one of those schools, are also those issues that many key stakeholders do condemn in some part of it. Like you rightly asked, who hires, who fires?
Indeed.
You know, a lot of questions about who exactly is responsible for hiring, who exactly is responsible for firing, and what are the procedures? How many years must a person be as a professor or as a doctor or as an associate doctor or probably as a professor to be given the chance to be
qualify.
the vice chancellor? I do understand that it varies in different universities. I know stakeholders like Dr. Rotimi and of course Dr. Adijat will want to clear more, or put more light into such things. But for some universities, it might not be up to 10 years, it might not be up to 8 years, it might not be up to 9 years, it just vary.
It just
for
varies.
this particular university, that's UNIZIC, yes. So it is all about that. So, but let's bring them together if we have them on board.
Yeah, I think we
because
do
I
have
also have a lot of questions for them. I'm thinking of autonomy, I'm thinking of a lot of issues, so let's bring them on board.
Yeah, at this point, I understand that we have Dr. Adijat. She's back with us. If we could just have her on the screen so she can respond to us, when we pose a question to her. When you look at all of these issues that are unfolding right now, especially in the case of UNIZIC, what does this speak to in terms of the functions, where the power of a pro-chancellor, the chairman, where his power ends, how much influence or how much authority does the Ministry of Education, who has oversight functions over every education institution in this country, function on behalf, really, of the federal government? How much influence, do they have? And so, if we have Dr. Joy, can we have a, response? Okay, Dr. Joy, it's good to see you. Dr. Adijat, I'm sorry, Dr. Adijat. Why am I thinking? I mean, maybe because you bring me so much joy this morning, and so I am calling you Joy. But really, Dr. Adijat, UNIZIC, the drama that is unfolding, how does that speak to the function, the authority of the pro-chancellor, and then, of course, the authority that the Ministry of Education has over the governing councils? Dr. Adijat's audio is still not, still playing hide and seek with us this morning. But we just, if we could have some of those infographics cards where it talks about the University of, the university's governing council, it lets us know some of their functions. And then, of course, UNIZIC, what are the issues? If we could just have some of those cards. Thank you very much. I mean, we're looking at the dissolution of the Governing Council of Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka. Now, this was driven by allegations of grave breaches of university regulations and law. Of course, some of the key issues include controversial appointment of Vice-Chancellor. The Council is accused of unilaterally appointing a Vice-Chancellor who did not meet the minimum eligibility criteria. Now, this decision caused significant discord and undermined governance at the university. And then, of course, over the weekend, we did see a statement, that was put out by the media spokesperson of the pro-chancellor. That speech was put out there, and it just questioned how people tend to think that they can function, above their office. I mean, the complaint from the Federal Ministry of Education had been that when the lack of adherence to due process and all of that was brought to to the attention of the pro-chancellor, what he did was to become abusive and threatening towards officials of the Federal Ministry of Education, and that didn't sit well with, it didn't sit well at all with the Minister of Education himself, who actually, whose boss is the president anyway. It didn't sit well with him, and then, of course, with the authority of the president, the pro-chancellor was removed, and of course questions about who gave him the authority to hire and fire, and all of that, those questions came up. And so this also reminds us of the issue that happened. I mean, Dr. Dr. Rotimi did mention University of Abuja, and that was a drama that unfolded between the Minister of Education, the then Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, and of course the Federal University. Now, before now, we had a case before now where we had an issue with the Minister of Education at the time, Adamu, of course, with Unilag, Unilag getting to Vice Chancellor and all of that drama that unfolded. And so really begs the question, what then is the place of the Federal Minister of Education? The Minister of Education, what is his place? What is his function, as it pertains to governing council? How much say does he have in the functions of governing council, and of course the pro-chancellor and chairman of these governing councils? How much authority does he have over them? Ayobami, I'd like to come to you. Nzubechuku, of course, is also here. Let's all, get into this conversation while we wait for our guests to wade in, as it were.
All right, so, like we were talking about, the case study that is Nnamdi Azikiwe University, of course, named after a very prestigious leader of a great nation, Nnamdi Azikiwe. So the focus on this particular great institution. But, yesterday, the reinstated acting Vice Chancellor in the person of Professor Joseph Ikechukwu Belu also mentioned that, well, there is normalcy now in the institution after the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, also, weighed into it, intervening effectively into this particular issue. But, some other persons have also questioned some, moves by the ministry itself. That's the Federal Ministry of Education. When we look at trying as much as possible to stabilize and to harmonize the structure in different institutions, would that be the best way to address it? Firing, the Vice Chancellor and of course the governing council, would that solve it? Have there been any, conversation, discussions before this particular process? And it seems as if, the doctor himself, Dr. Tunji Alausa, has, unveiled a season of, making sure that the governing councils in different institutions are being questioned and are being probed. Even not aligning to his own policies, as the case may be. This tone is as if Dr. Lausa is going after these governing councils. But hey, my concern, and that's why I was actually looking at the conversation with our guest on the program. But my concern, when you get the process.
Okay, Ayobami, I'm going to have you hold your thought. One of our stakeholders is ready. One of our subject matter experts is ready. Dr. Liu, we do have Dr. Liu now, so maybe he can continue from where he stopped. Dr. Liu, it's good to have you back. Do we have Dr. Liu? I mean, if you could just continue from where you stopped, talking about the whole drama that unfolded at Unizik as it pertains to hiring and firing, if you could just continue from where you stopped. Okay, the networks are not friendly. They're so not friendly to us this morning. Ayobami, please just.
I can imagine. Probably, because it's all about a very critical conversation on education. And, if we don't get it right, it affects every other part of it. For Nnamdi Azikiwe University, like I was saying, it's more of a politicking or politics, as the case may be. We know politics is into everything, whether you like it or not. The appointment of the pro-chancellor, when you were reading it, you mentioned it that, it's part of the culture. Like, the pro-chancellor must not come from a state, the particular state.
Where the school is domiciled, it has to come from outside of the state.
Other parts of the state.
So, personally, I want to believe that... Go ahead. Okay, your audio is... your network is also not being friendly right now, so I'll just take it. Personally, I want to believe that we saw the body language when body language. We saw Dr. Alausa's actions when he came in, and he told us. I mean, from the things that he did, you know, revoking some of the policies of his immediate past predecessor, it let us know that it wasn't going to be business as usual, that he was about his business. And, and I strongly want to believe that for him to have gone into the issues of the, what's it called, the governing councils of the different universities.
Governing councils and
it
universities.
meant that there were issues. Probably the ministry had received, you know, letters or complaints as to those issues. And whether you like it or not, such issues must not be overlooked. And, you know, it was a good thing to see that what was an oversight, you know, in the process of constituting those different councils, what was an oversight as in assigning a pro-chancellor to a school that is domiciled in a state where he originates from, you know, looking into that matter and then quickly changing all of that. It speaks to the fact that he's about his business and he wants what is best for universities. However, for the one of UNIZIK, right, for the one of UNIZIK, there were complaints, you know, that were written to the Federal Ministry of Education, and that ministry did write back to the pro-chancellor, asking him, why would you even appoint somebody who is not eligible for that position at that point in time? And his response back was not cordial at all. You know, it took to insulting the permanent secretary, some officials, you know, all of that. I think everything just came to a head. And then, of course, the Minister of Education now said, okay, you know what, the one who gave you the job needs to come into this matter. Let's bring the issue before the president. And then, of course, I want to believe that the president did review before he gave the approval that, you know, he should be taken out, and then that council be dissolved. Now, Zubichukwu, I want to come to you. I mean, you were at an event on Friday, and you had the opportunity to discuss with some lecturers, you know, as it pertains to this matter on ground. What are your thoughts, really?
Yeah, so a lot of those lecturers spoke about the governing council in general. So, especially Professor Sylvester Odion Ahaine, you know, so he said, and it is the sole responsibility of the president to appoint and sack governing council at will. He said that is the visitor. I mean, in federal universities. And then, you know, who said that it's the state government that appoints and also sacks governing councils in state-owned universities. So he pointed the UNIZIK matter out, and then he said that the reason why the federal government came into play and intervened, and because he mentioned that the governing council is the overall body in any tertiary institution, you know, be it academic or even managerial functions, they oversee
even financial. Yes, even financial. They have oversight functions.
They oversee everything. So now he said that the reason why the federal government came into play, you know, in this whole matter is because it was looking like the pro-chancellor was being insubordinate. Was being insubordinate, and he appointed, you know, a lecturer as the VC who is not even yet a full-fledged professor. You know, the professor at LASU, Professor Sylvester, he said that one of the criteria to becoming a vice-chancellor in a university is that you have to, he used a term which I can't completely remember, but I will rephrase. You know, so he said, and that's professor, not associate professor. He said that the professor has to serve as a professor at least, I think he said pre and post, 10 or 8 years.
Wow. That long?
8 or 10 years. Then that makes you eligible to be a vice-chancellor. So which means you have to be a professor for, you know,
a period of time.
Yes, exactly. For a long period, not just 2, 3, 4, 5 years. 8 to 10 years. So now, this actually, in my own opinion, I believe the federal government, you know, coming into play through the Ministry of Education was actually was important. Was important because now, if the overall body of an institution is not properly put together, is not properly managed, that means the entire institution is at risk.
Is in trouble, and
it's at risk.
You know what? The dissolution of that council, is justified,
yes.
Ayobami, because when you look at the fact that the pro-chancellor needed to have a sitting, right, and then they needed to have something like a ceremony for that vice-chancellor to be appointed, the selection process and all of that. What it therefore now meant was that the council members were a part of that process that put in that individual who was not eligible at that time to become the vice-chancellor. So if in itself the process is skewed already, I mean, people who should know better, decided to turn a blind eye and appoint someone who shouldn't be there in the first place, and no outcry, no dissenting voices were heard, when I say protest, I don't mean protest in the Nigerian context or in the world, the global, the going on the street protest,
yes.
but what I'm trying to say is, if none of those council members could speak up to say, you know what, this man is not qualified, we cannot, appoint him as the vice-chancellor of the school, if no dissenting voices were heard, then it meant that the whole governing council was skewed already. It was not effective to the point where it couldn't have put the right people in place. And so it justifies the federal government, dissolving the entire council.
Yes,
and
then again.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, then again. And then, he said, again, because I had a long conversation
with him.
With him, and I learned a lot. So now he said, and that these governing council members are actually non-academic staffs. They are non-academic staffs, and they are actually politicians who are appointed. They are not, okay, what's the word now? They are not members of the home state of the university, and they are from outside the home state of the university. So they are politicians who are non-academics, and he also said, and that probably the only academic staffs there are the vice-chancellors and the deputy vice-chancellors, who are members of the governing council. Because, of course, and they have, and to have a say, at least, in the running of the school. So now, that is it. And he also said, and that appointing a vice-chancellor, most of the time, that the governing council, usually passes it through, most of the time, not all the time, that the governing council usually passes it through the Ministry of Education, and then sometimes even the president gets to see it.
Okay. So if we are seeing an outcry against this appointment,
that means due processes were not followed.
Exactly, and that's one of the situations that was cited as part of the issues, that the whole, that emanated from that whole saga. But of course, it's just unfortunate that we couldn't have our conversation this morning with our subject matter experts. But let me let you know that on Thursday, 1 p.m. on EduConnect, we will have this conversation so we can make some sense, of the issues on ground. And we do hope that by the time we have that conversation, everyone will be clear on what their roles are, what the due processes are, and what should be done and what should not be done. And of course, it would also serve as a deterrent, for other very likely, possibly similar situations from occurring. But this is where we're going to drop the button on the front burner discussion this morning on the morning show. We'll go for a very quick break, and when we return, it will just be time for some news updates. Join us again.
Ellen 24/7 is first of all a news station.
Well, we continue with updates from the just concluded governorship
in the southeast has raised questions if INEC will be able to conduct elections.
With a whole team of over 40 correspondents spread across Nigeria.
Nigeria is set to take its place.
And affiliates in Africa, Europe, America, and Asia. We give you news as it breaks from the perspective you can trust.
I declare
Ellen 24/7 News. Where the story goes, we go.
Ellen 24/7 lights up your day with unbeatable shows that guarantees absolute access to stories that revolves around politics, entertainment, and sports. Breaking news, plus detailed reports and analysis. At Ellen 24/7, where the story goes, we go.
What makes the political system what it is today?
What are the recurring issues?
Order.
The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension.
The instability of the system.
Join Ellen 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
Apologize for saying that I was corrupt. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch politics now
on Ellen 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on Ellen 24/7. Ellen 24/7 lights up your day with unbeatable shows that guarantees absolute access to stories that revolves around politics, entertainment, and sports. Breaking news, plus detailed reports and analysis. At Ellen 24/7, where the story goes, we go.
Stay up to date with Ellen 24/7. Ellen 24/7. With news, politics, business, sports, and more on Ellen 24/7. Where the story goes, we go.
Well, it's great to have you back. To some news updates now. Nigeria have questioned the federal government's continued borrowing despite claims of saving $20 billion from the removal of fuel subsidy. A Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, disclosed this to newsmen. Discloses on Monday that, okay, I'm just going to have to read. Well, it's great to have you back. Let's bring you some news updates now. Nigerians have questioned the federal government's continued borrowing despite claims of saving $20 billion from the removal of fuel subsidy. Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, disclosed this Monday that the removal of the fuel subsidy and the adoption of market-based pricing for foreign exchange had saved the country an estimated $20 billion. The announcement, however, drew sharp criticism on social media platforms, with many questioning the use of the savings and its impact on the economy. In another development, Matthew Kuka, Catholic Archbishop of Sokoto Diocese, has described President Bola Tinubu, his predecessor Muhammadu Buhari, and most past Nigerian leaders as accidental leaders or products of accidental leadership cycle. Kuka made these remarks on Sunday while delivering a keynote address during the commissioning of the new Start Right school building and the 4th Amaka Ndoma Egba Memorial Lecture in Abuja. He said, and I quote, "If you look at Nigeria's leadership journey, you will find that almost every leader who came to power did so by accident." However, Bayo Ononuga, special advisor to the president on information and strategy, said Tinubu is not an accidental leader, noting that he is doing his best to ensure that Nigeria has a turnaround. And in other news, the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, has announced that the new National Identification Number, NIN card, will serve as a multi-purpose tool for identification and financial transactions. This development was disclosed during a recent interview on a local TV station with Kayode Adegoke, head of corporate communications, and Peter Iwegbu, director of card management services at NIMC. Iwegbu elaborated on the card's financial functionality, highlighting that it enables users to conduct transactions such as ATM withdrawals, online payments, and money transfers. Adegoke added that banks would issue the card to streamline the process. Prof. Christobeg Amoah, Executive Director of Center for Food Safety and Agricultural Research, says Nigeria needs to establish a dynamic regulatory framework that promotes in-country research and innovation while genuinely safeguarding biosafety, and not the current regime of captured compromise of national regulators turned GMO promoters. Now, citing that like COVID vaccines, GMOs are equal to gain of function research. Take a listen.
For adoption of genetically modified organisms in our country's agricultural landscape is to drive profits for the benefit of external commercial interests. Secondly, it is to drive national interests for those nations that host those interests. Thirdly, it is to position or to push our agricultural landscape to a position of capture, such that we will continually and continuously keep depending on these external interests. So if you are going to holistically adopt GMOs as being pushed onto you from external interest, it is important that you should have cognizance of these niceties that are the motives, because you don't have the capacity internally to check and cross-check, to verify the claims that they are bringing onto you, and then you are adopting something for national consumption that you don't have the intrinsic capacity to check and cross-check. So it should be taken for granted that before any country jumps or leaps into accepting these proposals or these promotions, as I call them, that country should have some form of mechanism, internal mechanism, to verify that the claims are in the best national interest of that country.
Well, following a call from the Coordination Rural, French farmers protest near the Arras prefecture in northern France, where bales of straw, tires and manure were dumped. Now, the farmers say the aim is not to put the pressure back on it, it's to get out of this agricultural crisis. Now, the farmers are protesting against low food prices, proposed reductions in state subsidies for farmers' diesel fuel, and an EU-Mercosur free trade agreement. Climate change policies that are being pushed by globalists like the World Economic Forum and its cohorts, who say carbon emissions from animals is also hurting the earth. A narrative highly refuted by scientists who hold that climate change agenda is a hoax. Now, in the ongoing war between two neighbors, Russia and Ukraine have traded airstrikes after a week of intensifying rhetoric in which Russia tested a new missile on Ukraine. Now, Russia has made close to 1,500 strikes on Ukraine since Sunday evening, on about half of the country's regions, causing dozens of injuries. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is quoted as saying. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military said it had struck a key oil depot south of Moscow and targets in the Bryansk and Kursk border regions. Russia's use of Oreshnik intermediate-range ballistic missile on the Ukrainian city of Dnipro capped a week of escalation in the war that also saw Ukraine fire U.S. and British missiles into Russia for the first time. And bringing you something in business, Nigeria's unemployment rate slowed to 4.3% in the second quarter of 2024 from 5.3% in the first quarter, the National Bureau of Statistics revealed in its latest report. And the Nigeria Labour Force Survey's second quarter 2024, published on Monday, revealed that the unemployment rate stood at 5.2% in urban areas and 2.8% in rural regions. The report said the labour force participation rate among the working age population increased to 79.5% in second quarter 2024 from 77.39% in first quarter 2024, noting that the labor force participation rate in Nigeria rose to 79.5% in second quarter 2024. The participation rates between males and females are nearly the same, with males at 79.95% and females at 79.1%. This minimum difference suggests a balanced level of engagement across genders, indicating that gender is not a significant factor in labor participation. But that's it on news updates for now. For more, do stay with LN247 platforms and, of course, our content hub at www.ln247.news for further news coverage. We'll go on a break now. When we return, the morning show will continue. Stay with us.
Stay up to date with LN247. LN247. With news, politics, business, sports, and more on LN247. Where the story goes, we go.
Homeschooling, a type of education where children learn outside of a school setting under the supervision of their parents or a qualified tutor. The family determines what is to be learned and how it is to be taught while following whatever curriculum applies in the situation. With the negative impact of the so-called COVID-19 pandemic on education world over, homeschooling has become the education of choice for an increasing number of families, with reasons ranging from parents wanting to contain their children from social vices inherent in schools to religious beliefs. Homeschooling is increasingly becoming popular. A lot of homeschooled students are getting very good results in standardized tests. This is most likely because homeschooling allows a more personalized and focused kind of learning. Students learn at their own paces, and so mastery of the subject matter is highly probable compared to a classroom setting. Mrs. Uche Bomodi is one of those who has opted to homeschool all her children. Mother of 6, it has been a worthwhile experience for her and the children, as she states her reasons for the decision.
My children had gone through several schools, but it was not satisfactory because I just felt all the children in the class are treated the same way. There's no peculiarity to the, gifts of each child to find out what works for this and what works for that, and how well do I affect each child, not just the garbage in and garbage out method. I found that it was more comfortable for me to sit down and homeschool my children and understand if they don't know something, I know they don't know it, and I'll help them know it, than to assume or expect that they have to know it.
Mrs. Bomadi, as are many others who are homeschooling their wards, apply the Accelerated Christian Education Curriculum, or ACE curriculum. ACE provides a Bible-based K-12 curriculum consisting of reading programs, core subjects, electives, and student programs. By breaking up their subjects into individual work texts called PACES, that is 12 per course per year, students can move through the curriculum independently and at their own speed. Once children have been placed at the proper performance level in each subject area, they work sequentially through the PACES as they master the material in each one. This methodology is called mastery learning. Students might be working at different levels in different subjects according to their individual abilities and needs. In a bid to find out more about the homeschooling curriculum and how it works, we visited the Great Destination Schools located in Bagada area of Lagos State. There we met with the proprietor, Mrs. Adetutu Adegoke, who took her time to explain how the homeschooling curriculum called ACE is applied in training the pupils who are enrolled in her school.
One unique thing about ACE curriculum, about individualized curriculum, is that it doesn't work with the normal school calendar. You see, this is what promotes the children. When a child enters a grade now, maybe grade 1, grade 2, you issue this to the child. You know, we have 6 basic subjects. We have math, we have language art, we have Bible, we have science, we have social studies, and we have one other subject. This curriculum is mastery based. It's mastery based. Whatever a child learns, he or she masters it. So that's one of it. Because in conventional, people that actually carry that on, they are the intelligent one. They are the one the teacher focuses on. And the teacher will want to finish his or her work. You know, what they call it, scheme of work. And some are behind. The average student, the below average student. They are not being carried on. The teacher will just have to introduce a new topic. But with this curriculum, it's not like that. Because you are not dealing with the general class. We are dealing with an individual child.
One of her supervisors, Charity Wakshama, further explains what is involved and why she opted for this model of training even for her own children.
In this system, they individualize and the learner is your focus, and you want the child to really be independent when it comes to learning. He may actually ask for assistance from time to time, but he takes responsibility for his learning. So when they come first from the conventional system, because some of them, they've not had this foundation before, so when they come, they struggle with studying independently on their own. If you have challenge, you raise your flag and ask for your supervisor's help, but you do the reading. That is why before you come to grade 1, the child must be able to learn how to read and be able to comprehend on its own. So when he asks questions, it will be maybe something that he doesn't really understand. Then the supervisor comes and just explains. So it's just that sometimes the challenge is that you can have 2, 3 children raising flag at the same time, and you want to answer each person at a time. So those ones have to wait a bit or they move on. They just keep that work aside and start another one while they wait for you as you're attending to one person at a time.
Homeschooling is legal in many countries. Countries with the most prevalent homeschooling movements include Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Some countries have highly regulated homeschooling programs as an extension of the compulsory school system. Few others, such as Germany, have outlawed it entirely.
Well, it's great to have you back. Of course, that was homeschooling for you. But right about now, we want to get into a very, very important discussion. This discussion, we've had several editions of it on this station and on this program, so it is not new. But of course, it is a timely and topical conversation that must be had, especially in the face of all that's going on in the world right now, not just in Nigeria or Africa, but all over the world. The world is going through so much hurting right now, and so we must help people stay strong and manage whatever situation they find themselves in. So right off the bat, our conversation this morning will be on mind management, and we will be looking at depression as a mental health issue. Now, joining us on set this morning, we have Mrs. Catherine Igbuna. She is a mental health expert who also works with the Mind Management Foundation. I mean, we've had them here before, and they're doing an amazing job out there with security officials, policemen, soldiers, even everyday people, schools also. They are doing an amazing job out there, touching lives and helping people stay strong in the face of whatever challenge comes their way. And so this morning, she graces us with her presence, and we're going to be looking at depression as a mental issue. Now, this had been an issue that seemed almost taboo before now. But people are beginning to earn up their realities, because when you keep quiet about an issue, there is no solution. But when you speak up, help comes to you. And that is where the Mind Management Foundation steps in to make all the difference. It's good to have you join us again on the program.
Thank you so much.
I'm always excited when I have to have this conversation with you, because it's a beacon of hope, really. It's a beacon of light in a world that is hurting so badly, a world that has been battered and bruised so bitterly that people just need all the help, that they can get. And then, of course, the Mind Management Foundation and people like you are stepping into that gap and just bridging it and giving people hope. So thank you very much for all that you do.
Thank you for having me, Ellen 247.
Indeed. And I am sure Ayobami is in Abuja. Ayobami, you are part of this conversation with us, right? I do know that you
definitely.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Right.
Good to see you, ma'am.
Good morning. It's Ayobami. Pleasure to see you.
Indeed. So, right off the bat, let's just get into this conversation. Yeah. A lot of people have different definitions for what depression is, but as a mental health expert, in your own, in your opinion, what is mental health?
Thank you so much, Ellen 247. It's always a delight to be on set with you. Just like you rightly said, mental health has various stages and dimensions when it comes to mental health issues. And depression happens to be one major part of it. Depression is a prevalent situation that has to do with a mental health disorder that causes you to be, persistently depressed. You notice that there is prevalent hopelessness, a state of hopelessness. Also notice that the person doesn't enjoy those activities that before now he used to engage in. And if not checked, it could affect the person's relationship, affects the person's way of life, and also could affect the person's health in the overall instance. So depression is something when you persistently see yourself being depressed, and it takes more than 2 weeks. It requires that you see a therapist, or require that you speak to somebody. And they always say there's a thin line between depression and hopelessness. And if it's not checked, the next thing that comes to mind is thinking of suicidal thoughts. So it's a matter, and it's a mental health condition.
So in essence, once a person finds themselves in a particular state of unhappiness, hopelessness for as long as 2 weeks, and it's not even changing that, it just continues, then it's time to really speak up and seek medical attention.
That's it.
Amazing. Ayobami, you want to get on the second question?
All right, well, thank you so much, for what you do. And, I just want to put it there that I think in Africa, especially Nigeria, mental health as a very high, has been rated as a very illness that is being stigmatized. And, of course, resources, health workers and facilities are not even available to handle such thing. Recently, research also shows that I think not up to, or probably over 150 psychiatrists is just we have in Nigeria. How mental health, in terms of facilities, in terms of trying to reduce the stigma that's been attached to it completely?
Okay, you are right about your statistics because a lot of our psychiatrists have found their way to greener pastures living in the country, and it has really affected us. And that's where Mind Management Foundation comes in. We're a team of experts made up of psychiatrists, made up of psychologists, counselors. And what we do out there is when we see people who have mental health issues or people who really need to see a doctor, it will interest you that presently in most of our psychiatric hospitals, if you have to go there that you have an issue and you need to see a doctor, when you are booked for appointment, it might take a very long time before you can have access to one. And you know, with the stigmatization, like you said, a lot of people don't want to come out to say they have issues that has to do with mental health disorders, because what Africans look at it as is that the person is actually mad, and nobody wants to be associated with madness. So we are in there helping people to, you know, tell you that it's not a case that cannot be cured. Just the way somebody has malaria, if you see a doctor on time, you will be cured. And the same thing it is with depression, with mental health cases. Once you see a doctor, it will be cured. And we are out there, our numbers are out there, we're on the internet, we are accessible, telling people that there is hope in life, because when people are hopeless, it brings about depression and people think about suicidal thoughts. And these days, even the children are prone to suicide. So the little ones are depressed. Some of the things that causes it as well is as a result of drug abuse. You can also talk about relationship. Some people have very abusive relationship. Some people have where you talk to them. And I think I should stop here. I have so much to say.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
You know, just listening to your response to that question just shows how much help, you know, the health sector needs. It shows how much help, how much no effort is too much. No matter how many, you know, the organizations or institutions are that are coming in, it's still not enough. I mean, you just pointed out that over time, Japa syndrome has taken away a lot of our professionals in this field. And then the question remains, what do we do? But thank God we have people like you. But, you know, and again, also listening to you when you said that even the children are becoming depressed and, you know, suicidal, it's just worrisome. But let me ask you, what are the typical symptoms of depression?
Okay, thank you for that question. One of the major signs you'll get when one is depressed is mood swing. The person is always excessively sad, you know, moody, excessively, you know, isolated. You want to be withdrawn from the normal social life. You don't want to talk to people. And before you know it, the person starts to feel a kind of inferiority complex. You are not sure of yourself anymore. You lose self-confidence. And along the line, some thoughts will start coming to you like, maybe you should kill yourself.
Oh dear.
You know, and if not checked and you don't get people around you who will empathize with you or listen to you with a caring heart, it might cause a lot of issues. Another symptom of it is weight. Is either you lose weight or you gain too much weight. And then a typical sign of it that is very, very common and prevalent is the person will not want to sleep anymore. So maybe you are oversleeping. Some people will say, let them sleep away their sorrow. Or the person is not sleeping anymore. You hear people say, I've not slept in weeks. Even your laptop, when you leave it on for a very long time, it shuts down. So, you know, so it's the same thing with the human mind. And one of the symptoms as well is you snap at people, you know. You become irritable, as a matter of fact. Little things that would have made people laugh, it becomes a serious matter. So, you know, people are cranky. Like I said the last time I came, when you greet somebody and they say, what's good about the money?
Oh dear.
You know, the person replies, like, it's not what we just, you know. So it's it's common, and it's something that can be, easily detected.
And what factors really contribute to this state of health?
Well, some of the factors could include, as a result of trauma, recent life trauma cases. You lost a loved one and everybody's saying, "It's taking it well." We once had somebody whose spouse, died, and people said he was taking it well. It was so quiet. And one day the guy walked into the sea, and that was the end of the story. So that kind of case, we also have, as a result of loss, you invested in business and, you lost your business. Human beings are generally made by words. The words you say to people could either make them or mar them. Abusive words, the things you say to your children, you say to your spouse. A lady once we're told, went and drank Sniper. The husband wasn't beating her, but he kept, bombarding her with so many abusive words, and until she lost her self-worth. And, she just said, "I've had it." And she just wrote down a note and said, "Thank you for being the reason why I had to do this." So these are things that you check, the things you talk to people. And then bullying, it has become a criminal offense where you bully people. Don't do that to a human being. And, so many other privileges. It could also be as a result of your medical health conditions. Some people have very chronic ailment, and they say, okay, once, I once watched a movie where they told the lady she was going to die. She had a wrong diagnosis. And I'm sure you know the movie, one of the popular movies. And the lady, decided to go on shopping spree, take care of herself because she was going to die. So inside her, she had this, thought that she was actually going to die, only for them to discover that it was a wrong diagnosis. It wasn't meant for her.
It was somebody
Some
else's,
people, as a result of, health conditions, chronic health conditions, get so depressed. But I tell you, there's hope in life. And that's our slogan in the Mind Management Foundation.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Indeed, Ayobami, there is hope in life. Let's come to you now.
Really, there is hope in life, and thank you for sharing this beautiful, session with us. And, when we're talking about depression and those symptoms, I'm just trying to imagine how many people we see on the streets. Even, driving, you see drivers just being at that edge, trying to be aggressive so much. Is all about the condition of the nation. But let's get to, talk more about how to handle it effectively. My question is, what are the preventive ways of not developing, these mental health issues, be it depression and, the related issues as the case, prevent it?
Okay, preventive ways to love yourself. Be yourself all the time. Don't try to be somebody else. And one of the preventive ways is, I'm a Christian, and I'm not ashamed of the gospel, like you say. And we have very good books. One of those books will be The Power of Your Mind. I want to recommend it to anyone and everyone. You talk yourself up mentally, and have times where you have reflections, Think of all the good things that God has done for you. Don't count all the losses. Count the good things that He has done. And then appreciate the people that love around you. Have a good relationship with people. Have times where you laugh, times where you share your joys, times, where you celebrate. Celebrate you. Because the life God has given to us is worth celebrating. And it's independent of whether there's food on your table. It's independent of there's no money in the bank. Like my Bible will say, sufficient for the day. It's preventable. And also try to look out for people. Be empathic with people. Have that listening ears. And don't be judgmental. That could help as well. When people come to you to tell you how they feel, empathize with them with the heart of God's love, and reach out to, as much as you can, be a helpful person. Mind Management Foundation will say to you, we have 3 stages where you, identify, intervene and refer. So identify the cases around you. Depression, after 2 weeks, becomes a matter of clinical attention. And as you go through it, a time will come where it becomes really, really, absolutely, troublesome and worrisome. So watch out for it. And don't get to that state where you become hopeless. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this beautiful one.
Yes, thank you so much to Mind Management and you two men for all you do. But my question is, what are the treatment options, available and to people who are dealing with depression, especially in Nigeria?
Thank you. One of the treatments is to seek medical attention. Look out to talk to a therapist, a clinical therapist, who would help you, diagnose the state where you are and see how they can help you. Another thing you could do as well is, I'm a Christian, a place of prayer.
Indeed.
When you put out time to take out time to pray to God. And I believe in speaking in tongues as well.
Oh, yeah.
It does help, The Bible says that he that speaketh in an unknown tongue charges up himself as an edifice. So you don't get deterred by what you see. What you see is that God is in the situation and is there to help you. You can also talk to a counselor, and we are a team of, like I said to you, and I'm very proud of it. We have volunteer counselors, volunteer psychiatrists, volunteer psychologists who are part of us, and volunteer medical doctors. And some people who have been maybe in one of the sets, if we are permitted, I will come in with somebody who has, who we were able to, intervene in a case. She was almost committing suicide. Such people are first-hand people who could tell you that your state is not the worst, but it can only get better if you allow people to intervene. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Please, the next time you come, please bring us these testimonies. These people who have gone through this process, so people will know that it's beyond talk. There are actual facts on ground. There are people who've been through whatever that one out there is going through, and have come out of it, and then that gives kind of hope to people to see that, oh, it's not just me. Oh, this beautiful lady went through it. Oh, if she can, then I can. It just reinforces people's hope.
Yes. So yes, there are a lot of economic and also social challenges. I mean, a lot of challenges. Let me not say problems, because I believe problems, is not the right word. Challenges can be solved. Yes. So there are a lot of challenges that Nigerians are dealing with, as pertains to the country. But my question is, how can someone help a friend or a loved one dealing with depression?
Okay, thank you. How you can help a loved one is by sharing, by talking. A problem shared is half solved. Don't keep quiet, and then look out around you. When from our studies, it takes about 30 to 45 days when you are being over-depressed to think of suicidal thoughts. So you can see it in the way the person dresses, in the way the person feels, in the way the person reacts. And what you can do is just be empathic, reach out to help, have a listening ear. Don't be judgmental. Mind Management Foundation will say you should listen than you talk. Look for a very comfortable place. And don't say to somebody, I see you want to kill yourself. You can go and die. Don't do that.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a bad place to be. So you might just be, affirming what the person's thought is. So what do? Get a comfortable place, call the person and say, please, can we talk? Sit down, look at the person and say, I can see that you are not in the right state, or something is bothering you. Would you want to share? The person sits down, you're looking at the person, is looking at you, and don't talk. Just after a while, the person either breaks up crying or the person, you know, starts saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And from there, a conversation will ensue. And you can really get to know what it is. And, you know, somebody said to me, say, for once, somebody is asking me, how do I feel? What's in my thoughts? You see, that's the first time I'm hearing that. And I think I would like to speak to that person. And that's part of it. Empathy, care, love, and good words, good words. Don't aggravate the matter, you know. It's like people will say in Nigeria, you're adding salt to injury.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Everybody is tensed. The economy is not smiling at anybody, but thank God that we have God on our side. Yes. And like I say to people, as usual, the problem will be solved. It's always solved.
Indeed.
And it will continue to be solved.
Indeed.
Once there is life, there is health, there is God, who is the ultimate, who created us for his glory and in his image. And nobody has a right to judge you. He created you and he said you were good. So first, love yourself.
I mean, if he's not judging you, who else should? I mean, who should you listen to at the end of the day? Thank you so much, Mrs. Kate, for your words this one. But very quickly before we go, I just wanted to clarify. Is there a difference between being sad and depression? And I mean, what's the difference?
The depression and
being sad. You know, just feeling sad and then one being depressed.
Yes, there's a lot of difference.
Okay.
Being sad is just a one-off mood. Something happened to you. You had a story that wasn't palatable and it didn't go down well with you. Or you did a deal and the deal didn't strike like you have, you know. Some people build castles in the air and you get sad. It's a one-off thing and it doesn't last that long. But depression is another, it's a clinical condition that is more than being sad. It's plus being sad.
Sad plus.
Yes, where it affects you emotionally, affects you psychologically, affects you physically, and even affects everything that concerns you. Where people lose appetite and it persists for so long and it will not stop. That's depression. Where people, you know, look at you, you don't even want to dress anymore. You become very unkempt. You don't want to comb your hair. You don't just feel like doing anything. And some people used to have some hobbies that they love. And all of a sudden you lose interest entirely in it. And, you know, that is depression. And it needs attention. And the earlier it's solved, like they say, stitch in time saves 9.
Indeed, a stitch in time saves 9. And this is where we're going to draw a curtain on this conversation. But before we go very quickly, do you want to give us your website, how people can reach out to you? Because there are people out there who may not know how to get in touch with you. So can you share?
Thank you so much. We really appreciate Talent 247 for the opportunity. We are the Mind Management Foundation. We are an NGO. And to the glory of God, we're extending beyond Nigeria to Africa and all over the world. And our plan is to have millions of volunteers who can help us. Just the way we do the CPR training, the way you do the firefighting safety. When we have more people who, you know, are being trained, that will help us. So you can join us on www.mindmanagementfoundation.org. We are right there on the screen. We are Mind Management Foundation. And like I'll say again, we are on the website, www.mindmanagementfoundation.org. It's one word.
Indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Catherine Egbuna, mental health expert, and of course, also with the Mind Management Foundation. Thank you for the fantastic work that you are doing. Thank you for being a beacon of light and God's outstretched hands to people out there who truly are in need. We do hope that, of course, you did get that website, but just in case you didn't get the website, you want a phone number, you can call LN247 phone lines. We will put you in touch with them because we are here to give you hope also and to be, you know, a beacon of light to you. So get in touch with us. We work with them, of course, the Mind Management Foundation, we work with them also. And that way we can put you in touch with them so you can get the answers to the questions that you have. Well, this is the much we can take on this conversation. At this time, we will go for a very quick break. When we return, we have one last job to do before we wrap up the morning show right here on LN 24/7. Join us again.
Do you have concerns about mental issues, or do you know someone who is struggling with a mental issue? Look no further. You can talk to us, and we are here to help you. Mind Management Foundation is a non-governmental health foundation passionate about helping people deal with mental health issues and their causes. Through proper education and sensitization, Mind Management Foundation helps both individuals and groups maintain a sound mind and well-being. Join our volunteer/personnel network as we educate groups and individuals on handling mental issues and behaviors. We are eager to provide you with the right tools to handle mental health problems for optimal well-being and soundness of mind. You can visit our website www.mindmanagementfoundation.org to learn more about the foundation. Thank you.
Let me tell you this. Some years ago, this maybe like about 5-6 years ago, I was speaking to the director of Rhapsody Realities. 5-6 years ago. We said something about a world outreach with Rhapsody. I said to her, not yet. I said, just wait a little more. We're doing these outreaches, different cities, different nations. So, can we just have one big one around the world? I said, not yet. I said, because when we do it, it will be global. Not global in name, it'll be one big sweep.
Is the time for that one big sweep. Reach Out World Day, on December 2nd and continuing throughout the month, from cities to nations, communities to villages, across the plains, valleys, mountains, and hills, everyone will be reached in this mission. Nations will be covered with the Word of God as we reach the people with Rhapsody of Realities, in 8,123 languages and 4,000 dialects.
You with me on this? Tell me, are you with me on this? We're going to make it happen.
Get involved today. For more information, visit www.reachoutworld.org or call the following numbers today.
Well, it's great to have you back. Now, this is a special segment, and we are dealing Rhapsody of Realities Reach Out World Outreach. Now, at this time, we want to welcome you to another exciting segment of the Rhapsody of Realities Reach Out World Global Outreach. It is a privilege to bring you stories of faith, hope, and transformation from all around the world. Now let's give you some more details. Rhapsody of Realities is a Christian daily devotional publication by Pastor Chris Oyakhilome. It was first published January 2001 in English, and by August 2022, it had been published in over 7,000 languages. Now, in 2011, it distributed 2 million copies each month globally. During the celebration of its 20th year in print, the devotional reached a global coverage of all 242 countries and territories of the world, with over 3.6 billion copies circulated in 20 years. And the book is released in physical print, audiobook, and ebook monthly. It has an article for each day of the month with a daily Bible study plan to complete reading the Bible in 1 and 2 years, respectively. It has variants for children called Rhapsody or Realities for early readers, TiVo for teenagers, and Braille version for the visually challenged. Now today we'll hear incredible testimonies of lives changed, discover the amazing features of the Rhapsody digital app, and of course learn about the life-transforming Say Yes to Kids campaign. Right now we'll begin with this beautiful testimony from Maria Terry in Fiji Island.
I'm the answer to your every cry, solution for the weary heart. I bring to you good news. I'm Rhapsody.
My name is Maria. My son was sick for 3 days from diarrhea. On the third day, I put my son on the bed. I went to the bathroom. When I came back, I saw my son. His eyes was white. I was really scared. So I ran to my mother-in-law. I told my mother-in-law to come and see my son. When my mother-in-law came to see my son was dying. My mother-in-law told me to take my son to the hospital. But I told my mother-in-law I already called my father. My father told me to bring my son at home. On our way to the hospital, we kept fighting inside the car. I told my mother-in-law to take my son to my father. Then after that, you can take my son to the hospital. On our way home, my mom was standing outside. I gave my son to my mom. My mom held my son and ran to my father. My father held my son and took one Rhapsody and put on my son's chest and started praying in tongues. My father was praying and praying. My son came back to life. Hallelujah. I would like to take this time to thank our man of God, Pastor Chris Hakilame, for the Rhapsody of Realities, and also our partners who are paying for the Rhapsody of Realities. Thank you so much. I love you so dearly.
Well, that's just one of the stunning stories of testimonies brought to you by Rhapsody of Realities and how people are putting their faith to work. Now, technology is redefining how we share the gospel, and the Rhapsody digital app is at the forefront of this revolution. Now, Reach Out World Day has a powerful app designed to connect users with the global mission of Reach Out 24/7. With easy-to-use features, the app allows users to engage and disciple others effectively, track their impact, and be part of a worldwide movement to share the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Reach Out World Day app is now out. Your one-stop platform for all Reach Out World Day activities. Sign in with your Reach Out World account. Both platforms are synced. Set goes on sponsorship, physical distribution, and digital distribution. Track your progress. Enlist sponsors through your enlistment link or referral code. Distribute Rhapsody through QBads right on the app. Get your prayer link and get others to pray with you for Reach Out World Day. Sign up as a printer, distributor, Reach Out World missionary, or iReporter. Watch our videos for more tips on Reach Out World Day. Download content for publicity. Check out the easy-to-use data capture section. Capture full data while you distribute Rhapsody. No need for long, boring, and time-consuming forms. Take pictures or upload pictures. Record short videos or upload short videos. Capture data. Upload you read Rhapsody 2 or distribute Rhapsody 2. Either their phone numbers or emails, all within seconds. Earn Reach Out World Reward points as you carry out all these activities. Earn reward points by enlisting sponsors, by sponsoring Rhapsody of Realities, enlisting subscribers, digital distribution through the app using QBads, accurate data capturing, which includes pictures, videos, phone numbers, emails recorded during your physical distribution of Rhapsody of Realities. Earn points by reading Rhapsody to others using the Reach Out World Day app. The Reach Out World Day app. Sponsor, enlist, engage. Distribute Rhapsody accountably on the go. Download now from reachoutworld.org or lwappstore.com. Download today.
And of course, the Rhapsody digital app is for everybody. If you're a Christian, wherever you are, it transcends denominations, right? So wherever you are, get that app and get on board. Be a part of this movement. We're still telling you more about the Rhapsody of Realities, which have influenced nations over the years. Now we'll take a look at some countries showcasing how Rhapsody of Realities is impacting lives and fostering growth in their regions. Take a listen.
Not only it will help me to win the souls, but also it will help me to build the soul, which is so important in these last days.
It's more than a book. It carries a divine transforming message with the young, the old, the visually impaired, and those with hearing disabilities all finding solace in it. Available in different formats and for all age groups, with the divine words resonating through pages, screens, and even fingertips.
I'm ever so grateful to Pastor Chris for writing these books and for letting us have these wonderful supplies that are a great tool for evangelism in children. We love Rhapsody of Reality.
One thing that I learned was how we are called to righteousness, and I would not have learned that if it wasn't for this TiVo book.
Once getting exposed to this daily devotional, my life has been very different every day. Well, and I'm able to reach out to others as well of my age to read the TiVo and be inspired as well.
Blind world is a different world entirely. But coming here today, you make us believe we are still part of the world. We say very much thank you, most especially Pastor Chris.
Right, the Rhapsody of Reality is still impacting lives and making a difference all around the world. Now, recently, children's literature has become a thing of concern, with all kinds of materials being made available to children. But Rhapsody of Realities has children covered, as next we will spotlight the Say Yes to Kids campaign, a mission dedicated to shaping the future by reaching children with the Word of God. Now, through this campaign, children around the world are receiving the Word in a format designed just for them. It's more than a book. It's a guide to a godly life. Take a listen.
We will distribute Rhapsody of Realities everywhere in the world. They must be everywhere on earth by December 2nd.
Say yes to kids and angels. Send an angel now.
You with me on this? Tell me, are you with me on this?
Save, save, save the children. Send an angel now.
On the road to Reach Out World Day, Say Yes to Kids Campaign Edition.
Now it has become very obvious that whether through testimonies, the digital app, or the Say Yes to Kids campaign, Rhapsody of Realities is touching lives worldwide. Ayobami, Rhapsody of Realities right there in your face. I like the fact that you have some copies.
I do. I move around with it. It's my breakfast alongside my Bible and the Rhapsody of Realities daily. I must take these before I check out every blessed day. This is my life. This is it. And 2nd of December, all over the world, everyone will have a copy of Rhapsody of Reality.
Indeed.
Trust me, it's going to be massive. Indeed. It's going to be global.
Indeed. And, you know, let's also let you know that the devotional Rhapsody of Realities is beyond creed and color. It cuts across denominations. It cuts, as long as you're a Christian or you're just curious about the Word of God, what it says, Rhapsody of Realities is a compendium of God's Word, God's promises, everything good about the Word of God you will find in Rhapsody of Realities. Now, the Rhapsody of Realities Reach Out World Show is a call to action, a celebration of faith, and of course, is a testament to the transformative power of the gospel in today's world. Like Ayobami said, December 2nd, 2024, there will be a global distribution of billions of copies of Rhapsody of Realities devotional, which is the world's largest evangelical crusade that will ever be held in history. Now, I am excited, and I am sure that millions of people out there are excited.
I'm excited too.
Indeed. Yes. I mean, I see your smile, Elizabeth. I see your smile. And just knowing that, you know, we've always said it, the world is going through so much. The world is hurting. There's so much trouble out there. The Word of God, people's faith, really, you know, is that thing that keeps them strong. And so till we come your way again tomorrow with another set of beautiful presenters bringing you the right kind of information, we say bye.
Bye. Goodbye.